Illinois loses. Sorry,
Ooh.
Illinois loses 79-86 against Tennessee. This was a game that I felt like was kind of one of those ones where Tennessee kind of got everything that they wanted out of Illinois. Don't get me wrong, it was still a closer game. But I say that in terms of I think Tennessee really excels in isolation defense, and Illinois really excels in isolation offense. And so it was kind of a perfect pairing of seeing how those two would go against each other. And it just happened to turn out that Tennessee won in those situations more often than Illinois did, which was difficult for them. The lack of assists and the lack of passing, which I'm sure you're going to talk about, the point guard shaps, is really kind of wearing on them. And I think Tennessee took advantage of that a little bit. But I'm not down on Illinois at all after this game. I think this was kind of a hard matchup. I think Tennessee is a very good defensive team. They had a good scheme going into this one. And so I think, after some of Illinois' wins lately, I think you still got to remember those, even with this loss here. Shaps, what were some of your thoughts?
Yeah, two really good defensive teams. Both were top 10 in KenPom going into the game. And so this went the way I wasn't expecting. It was a really high-scoring affair, back and forth. The first half especially was really high-level shot-making, really fun game to watch. Tennessee's 19-2 at home since 2021, so we knew this was going to be very difficult. Coming off of a big road trip that we've been on. We went to Rutgers, and then we just stayed out east to play in the Jimmy V Classic and got that good win against FAU. So didn't have like the highest of hopes going into this game, but was hoping for a good showing, and I thought we got that. I was really happy, actually, at halftime. We had the lead, even though Shannon was really struggling. It was clear that Tennessee was not going to let Terrence Shannon beat them. Every time he was driving, there was 3, sometimes 4 guys collapsing in the lane on him. But, other guys were really stepping up, especially Quincy Guerrier, transfer from Oregon. He's really struggled offensively for most part of the season. He was coming off a hand injury, so his shot wasn't really looking good. He also had a baby like a few weeks ago, so seemed to be really struggling right around the time that baby arrived. As
Probably
my fellow dads can attest to. Sometimes you're not sleeping so well. It's probably tough to get up for some of these games, but he had the best game of his season with 22 points, 5 rebounds. So we felt good going into the second half. We had a lot of the momentum. The crowd was very quiet. And then they decided to call a hook and hold on Ty Rodgers on a free throw. The interesting part of this one was they didn't initially call a hook and hold. They only called, a common foul, which was a terrible call to begin with, because you could see the replay. He gets pushed in the back by Dalton Knecht, which would have been his 3rd foul. But then they go and review it, and they call a flagrant for a hook and hold, and it was just a horrible, horrible call. He didn't prevent, the Tennessee guy from going for the rebound at all. So it didn't really make sense at all. So then after that, Tennessee, gets basically 4 points out of that call. They go on something like a 10-0 run. It was at one point it was 16-5 Vols run after that flagrant. That got the crowd really into it too, and they continued to just call ridiculous fouls against Illinois, and it was very, very lopsided in the second half. And that was the only thing that got the crowd really going too. The crowd was basically taken out of the game until the referees started going on their side and the crowd started getting into it. That's when Dalton Knecht just went off. He's such a good player. He can beat you in a variety of ways. The combination of him and Vescovi are really, really dangerous. And then you got their little point guard who just gets in the lane and can really hurt you. But like I said, the calls went against us, but we got too reliant on the 3-point shot in the second half. Terrence Shannon and Marcus Damask really struggled. They weren't going to let them beat us. And then we just started launching threes, which is kind of like regression for us. We've been much better about that in recent games. And this is kind of going back to like how we looked early in the season when it was just too dependent on the 3-point shooting. We were 9 of 36 from deep, just 25%. And it was clear that Shannon was getting really frustrated too. He was only 1 of 6 from deep. And the thing about Shannon so far this year is obviously teams are collapsing on him. You don't want to let him get to the rim, but he's shooting 45% from 3 this year, which is a massive improvement from last year. So it seems like there's just no way to stop this guy, because if he's not getting to the rim, he's knocking down threes. But obviously, if he struggles from 3, then it's not going to be good. He still ended up with 22 points, I think, but a lot of that came late in the game. He's always going to get to the free throw line, but yeah, it was really just a matter of the rest of the team struggling and just not getting any flow in the offense at all. I was proud that we did end up covering the spread at the end. If you got like 7 or 7.5, well done for you. But yeah, I wasn't too down after this game. I was pissed about the Zebras, but I was still happy that we went 2-1 on this little road trip. And we can still, close out this calendar year pretty well. I think we've got a game against Colgate coming up next, and then we take on Mizzou in the annual bragging rights game in St. Louis, which there will be a number of Java men in attendance for that one. It's always a fun atmosphere, and Missouri kind of stinks this year, so hopefully we get a win over them. But yeah, it was still a good, entertaining game. And not too down about the loss.
Yeah, no, for sure. I noticed the frustration as well. That was another thing I was going to bring up, that, there for a little bit, it just seemed like everything Illinois was trying to do offensively just wasn't flowing the way they wanted it to. And that happens sometimes, but it was like, Tennessee would come down and get a quick shot or get a quick make or something like that, and you just kind of saw the dejection on the Illinois players. So hopefully, they'll, and I think Brad Underwood is a good enough coach. He'll kind of get with that and be like, guys, that happens sometimes. We can make it from there. And I think they will. I think this is a good learning experience for Illinois. And like I said, I'm not thinking low of Illinois after this one. A lot of it because of the Zebras as well, like you pointed out there, Shaps. Quick note, sorry guys, the bottom there, Guerrier, I can never pronounce his name right. He did have 22. He did have 22 points, not 35. Sorry about that. That was a
that'd be pretty good.
Yeah, miss on my part. That looks a lot better. What's that? Like almost half the score of the team there. But yeah, my bad, guys. Sorry on that one. Frank, what were your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I did think Guerrier had a really good game to start off. I also was really impressed with what Luke Goody did. I mean, I know he didn't play a ton, but I felt like he contributed some meaningful minutes. And JR, I'm glad you brought it up that, stylistically, this is going to be a really interesting game. So Illinois is 36% assist percentage in the second percentile in Division I right now. So they I think 40% of their shots are from either isolation or spot up too. So they're not passing the ball a ton, but I mean, I really felt like, guard. yeah, that hurts, unfortunately. But, I felt like in the first half, Illinois was making really tough shots and Tennessee was missing really good shots. And I was concerned, because I always root for Big Ten and non-con, but I was concerned because I was concerned that they would kind of regress to their mean. But just, a couple possessions in the first half, we saw just Illinois put three guys on the perimeter, run a spread ball screen. Shannon takes a contested 3. There was one possession where Hawkins had the ball, passes it into the post, passes it right back out, takes a contested 3, and it goes in. But Tennessee were missing some easy buckets or easy baskets at the rim, and missing some open threes. And I was just concerned that something had to change offensively for Illinois and defensively to win the game. And I just think that, when you look at the box score and you look at Coleman Hawkins, 12 points on 13 shots. Shannon had 22 points on 16 shots. He had a 114 offensive rating. Ultimately, it's trying to figure out how those two guys kind of coexist. And I think that's where winning's going to come for this Illinois team. But I think that, they did a good job of Tennessee did a good job of forcing Illinois to play their game. And Illinois didn't really make him work on the defensive end a whole lot. So I think going forward, like you said, Brad Underwood's a really good coach. I have a high amount of respect for him. I think he'll get this team ready to go. I just think that Hawkins and Shannon are probably two of the top 10 players in the Big Ten. It's just figuring out how they coexist and how to make a winning product out of them consistently, I think is really going to be the key for this team going forward. But, it was a really entertaining game. I do agree that hook and hold call was pretty atrocious. And I'm just not a fan of the hook and hold in general, because I'm sure if you don't know, it was created for Purdue when Isaac Haas got injured in the tournament and they broke his elbow. So it's got always a salty thing for us Purdue fans, because it wasn't even a foul when it happened to Isaac Haas. So, I think that going forward, it's a game that's going to help Tennessee. Or it's going to help Illinois. I'm sorry, they're both orange. That's why I keep getting them mixed up in my head. So I'm thinking about the game. So, I think going forward they're going to figure it out. And Shannon can just keep his frustration and not chuck up as many bad shots as he did in that game. He'll be really good going forward.
Boy, you're just going to bring up Isaac Haas and make me think of another Purdue guy that I hate watching for so long. He was good too. I think you hit it on the head with everything you were saying there, Frank. So I think just going forward, tough game for Illinois, tough loss, but at the end of the day, you still lost by only 7 on the road against a top 20 team that had the Zebras on their side. So in my mind, Illinois is going to be fine. They're still number 2 in the Big Ten in my mind right now. So until they beat Purdue, which if they beat Purdue, maybe we'll see. But I'm sure that day will come. I don't know what date that is yet, but I'm really looking forward to it. I'm going to look it up after this. So. Thanks for listening to the Big Ten Huddle. Please do like and subscribe. We appreciate that. If this was your first time listening, we are the Big Ten Huddle. We cover all things Big Ten football and basketball. We have a long episode every Sunday, Tuesday, and Wednesday night, all at 9 o'clock. So come in, check us out, get in the chat, let us know what you're thinking. We would love to have you join us and learn more about the Big Ten.